Hello students, welcome back to Accounting 1329, Payroll and Business Tax Accounting. Dr. Mercado here speaking. We are continuing covering Chapter 3, which deals with Social Security taxes. Now this next problem that we're going to be covering is problem 39A. Okay. Now I love this problem because it basically goes over how to calculate your taxable wages, your OASDI tax, your taxable wages for HI, and your HI tax, okay, for different employees. So we're going to have a lot of practice because we have multiple employees that we have to calculate both the taxable wages and the actual tax, okay. Now, what I have found is students have difficulty figuring out the taxable wages for employees that go over the OASDI cap, okay. Now, if on your textbook in chapter 3, it goes over the tax rates for the OASDI and for the HI. Okay, remember, OASDI stands for Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance. It is super long, so I am not going to be saying all of that. I'm just going to be saying OASDI. Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance, and Hospital Insurance, which is your HI benefits. Okay, so the rates are 6.2% for OASDI, 1.45% for HI. Now, very, very important. We only pay OASDI taxes on the first $142,800 of wages earned. If the employee makes more than that, they will not pay any more OASDI tax for that year. Okay, they are capped at $8,853.60 of tax per year for OASDI. HI does not have a limit or a cap, so regardless if you make $1 million, $2 million, you still have to pay HI. But for OASDI, you will only pay OASDI tax up to the base of $142,800. Okay. So, we are provided with a whole bunch of information. It says Empty Fields Company pays its salaried employees monthly on the last day of each month. Okay? So, the employees are salaried and they get paid once a month. The annual salary payroll follows. They give you the annual payroll. We are to compute the following for the payroll of December the 31st. So, we are calculating the taxes for the last paycheck of the year for December the 31st. Okay? Now, what I like to do is I like to look at my annual salaries, okay? First, I like to identify, do any of my employees go over the cap? The cap is $142,800, okay? Do any of my employees make more than $142,800? So let's look at the list. I basically copied and pasted the list over here. That way I can work off of it. And you know what? Yes, one employee makes $150,000. Okay, I'm gonna leave that employee for last. Okay, because that's gonna be the more complicated employee. All of the rest of my employees make less than the cap. So what does that tell me? That tells me that I don't have to calculate the year-to-date earnings for these employees because I know that none of them are going over the cap. So whatever I calculate for the monthly pay, that is how much is going to be taxable because they're not going over the cap. Now, for Sam Ruiz, Sam did go over the cap, so we're going to have to do an extra calculation for Sam because not all of the earnings in that last payroll are going to be taxable for OASDI purposes, okay? So I'm going to leave Sam for last, and we're going to work our way through each of the rest of the employees, okay? I'm going to be having my calculator up. That way you can follow along with my calculations. Now, the first thing that we have to do is we have to figure out the monthly pay for all of our employees. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that for all of my employees except Sam. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to do all of them at this point, okay? So let's do that, okay? How do we calculate the monthly pay? We are paying once a month, so we divide the annual salary divided by 12 months. So that means that every month, this is how much our employees are going to make. So in this case, for Gina, it's $3,086.6666. We have to look at that third digit. It's greater than a 5, so we're going to round up to 3086.67. Okay? And excuse me, I'm a little bit congested. So if I sound kind of weird, it's because I'm congesting. I have allergies, so I apologize. Okay. So the next one we have is norm worth, 48,900. We're going to divide by 12. That gives me 4075. Now we need to make sure that these give me my decimals. There we go. The next one we have is John Bass. John makes 40,000. I'm going to divide by 12 months. That gives me $3,033.33. And we're going to keep it at 33 because that third digit is a 3. It's less than a 5. So it's 3,333.33. Now for Sam. Sam makes 150,000. And we're going to divide by 12. So Sam is making $12,500. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get Sue, 36,900 divided by 12. That's 3,075. Okay. Then we're going to get Mary. And you see, all I'm doing is I'm getting my annual salary. And I'm dividing by 12 months to get my monthly pay. Now let's look at Mary. Mary makes $4,041.66666, okay? That third digit is a 6, so I'm going to round up that second digit to a 7, okay? So I'll be 4041.67, okay? Be very careful with your rounding because that 1 penny, that 1 cent is going to throw you off, okay? 106.80, and we're going to divide it by 12. That's 88.40. Then we have Abe Carson, 56,900 divided by 12. That's 4741.6666. We're going to round up to 0.67 because that third digit is greater than a 5, okay? Then we have Sarah, 37,850 divided by 12 months. Okay, we've got 3,154.16666 because that third digit is a 6. I'm going to round that second digit up to a 7. So it'll be 3154.17. Okay, and last but not least, we have Harper. Okay, so Harper is 51,200, and I am going to divide by 12. Okay, it's 4,266.66666. Okay, so we look at that third digit. It's greater than a 5, so I'm going to round up to 6. That 6, I'm going to round it up to a 7. So it'll be 4266.67. 4266.67. Okay, so that is how much my employees get paid a month. Okay. I'm going to get a total. Now, this is the amount. We have to be clear. This is how much we pay our employees monthly, okay? It does not mean that everything is taxable. Why? Because Sam made $12,500, but Sam is making more than the base wage for OASDI. So that means that not all of the $12,500 are going to be taxable for Sam. Only a portion will be, okay? So your OASDI taxable wages is basically your wages that are taxable, okay? The only one that we have to make an adjustment for is Sam, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy these numbers and I'm going to paste them over here and I'm going to delete the number for Sam, okay? I'm leaving Sam for the end, okay? Now, for my OASDI tax, your tax is 6.2%, okay? I'm using Excel. Okay, and I'm going to do it very simple. I am not going to go through all of the calculations one by one in the calculator when you can do it in a second in Excel. Okay, so if you are using Excel, which I recommend, is you do a formula. Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to get your OASDI taxable wages and you're going to multiply it by your rate, your OASDI rate, which is 6.2%. Okay, now I am going to copy this formula down to the rest of my cells. That way I don't have to do this formula over and over and over again. Because I am going to be copying my formula down, I need to anchor my rate at 6.2%. I need to make sure that all of my OASDI taxable wages multiply by the 6.2%. So I need to anchor that cell. So that cell is cell S7. So what I do is I click F4 on your keyboard, and it basically puts a dollar sign in front of the S and in front of the 7. Okay, so basically your formula should read R9, which is the taxable wages, times dollar sign S dollar sign 7. S7 is your rate. Okay, and the reason I do that is when I copy my formulas, they all go back to that 6.2%. If not, you're going to get some kind of an error message. Okay, so if your F4 does not work, it does not matter. You can enter the dollar signs manually, as long as you do enter the dollar sign before the letter and the dollar sign before the number. Okay, once that happens, then you can just it'll give you the amount of your tax, 191.37, and then you're gonna basically get this little corner. It's like a little box. You're gonna scroll it down. Okay, and it's going to give you the taxes for all of your employees. Okay, so what does it do? It basically, the formula multiplies your taxable wages times your tax rate. Okay, that's all it does. It's all it's doing. It multiplies your taxable wages times your rate. Okay, and by us anchoring that cell S7, it allows the formulas, whenever we scroll them down, it allows the formula to automatically refer back to that rate of 6.2%. Okay, if you want to do it the long way, which is in a calculator, you can do the same thing. You'll do the 3086.67 times 6.2%, and that will give you 191.37. Okay, so it's up to you how you do it. It's just multiplying the taxable wages times the rate of 6.2%, and that will give you the taxes. Okay, now we are missing that SAM, which we're going to leave for the end. Okay, your HI taxable wages are the same amount. It's your monthly pay. Okay, so we're just going to copy that over, and we're going to paste it. Now, for my HI taxable wages, the amount that Sam makes does not really matter. Why? Because there is no cap on the HI taxes. We are going to pay taxes on the full amount regardless of how much this employee makes. So Sam has to pay HI taxes on the whole $12,500. Okay, we'll figure this out in a minute. Okay, but for the HI taxes, the whole amount is taxable because there is no cap on HI. Now my HI tax rate is 1.45%. Okay, so I'm going to put that up there. So how do I calculate my HI tax? I'm going to do equal sign. I'm going to select my HI taxable wages, which is 3,086.67, and I'm going to multiply it by my rate. I'm going to select my rate. Okay. Once I select my rate, I'm going to put my cursor in front of the U or in front of the letter, whatever cell you're in, and you're going to click at F4. F4. That will automatically put dollar signs in front of the letter and in front of the number cells. That way I link, or I anchor my rate. All of my calculations are basically going to get the taxable wages times that rate. And that rate cell is going to be anchored. That way all of the calculations refer back to it. So your HI tax formula should be the HI taxable wages times the rate, and then you anchor the rate. Okay, and that will give you a dollar amount. Once you do the formula for the first one, you get this little box on the corner and just bring it down. Okay, and let's get our totals for my HI taxable wages. Okay, and for my HI tax, these are done. And the reason these are done is because we don't have a cap. We don't have to figure out anything else for for Sam because for HI purposes, the whole amount that he makes this pay period, which is the $12,500, is taxable for HI purposes. Now let's go back to the OASDI taxable wages for Sam for this pay period, this last pay period. So we know that Sam made $12,500. He makes $150 a year, but we also know that the cap is $142,800. Anything above that amount, we are not going to pay any OASDI taxes. So the first thing we need to figure out is what is Sam Ruiz year-to-date earnings as of November. Okay, so as of the end of November, how much had Sam Ruiz earned? So I know that Sam makes $12,500 a month. I'm going to multiply that by 11 months. That's from January through November. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, that gives me 12,500 times 11 months. That gives me 137,500. Okay, 137,500. This is Sam Ruiz year-to-date earnings as of the end of November. Okay, so I know that my cap is 142,800. Okay, I'm going to subtract that from my year-to-date earnings of 137,500. Let me put here year-to-date earnings of 137,500. So that means that 142,800 minus 137,500, that means that I need $5,300 to reach that cap. Once that cap is reached, I no longer have to pay any taxes. So this tells me that I still need to pay taxes on $5,300. Okay, this represents my taxable earnings to reach the cap. Okay, I am only going to pay taxes on $5,300. Why, Dr. Mercado? Remember, we pay taxes on the first $142,800. Step number 1, calculate the year-to-date earnings as of last month. As of last month, Ruiz earned $137,500. We know that we are only responsible to pay taxes up to the cap of $142,800. So if I get my cap amount of $142,800 minus my year-to-date earnings as of November, which were $137,500, that means that in the December paycheck, I only have to pay taxes on $5,300. Anything above that, so the monthly pay is going to be $12,500. Let me see if we get this clear. That is the monthly pay for Sam. Okay, so monthly pay $12,500. Okay, we've calculated the taxable amount, the taxable earnings for OASDI. Let me move that over here. Taxable earnings for OASDI is going to be the $5,300. Okay, so that means that not taxable earnings. That means that the amount that is not taxable, okay, so the employee, Sam, made $12,500. He has to pay taxes on $5,300. That means that $7,200 of that earnings that he made in December are not taxable. So $7,200 are not taxable. $5,300 are taxable. That is the amount that we are going to use in our calculation. $5,300 are taxable. That is the amount that brings us up to the cap of $142,800. So right here in my monthly pay, it's $12,500. But for OASDI taxable wages, I am only going to pay taxes on $5,300. Okay, so Sam Ruiz, even though he earned $12,500, only $5,300 are subject to OASDI tax. You get your $5,300 times the 6.2%, and that gives me 328.60. Okay, and that auto-populated because I had already dragged my formulas in. Okay, so remember, you can drag your formulas, enter them in the first cell, anchor that rate, and you anchor it by entering a dollar sign in front of the letter and the number, and then you scroll down and it gives you your total. Okay, now I'm going to get a total for my OASDI taxable wages, and I'm going to get my total for my OASDI tax. Okay, let's see what we get. 43,914.18. That is my OASDI taxable wages. My OASDI tax is 2,722.68. It says here. Let me see. Now, what I recommend if we are doing formulas is that we use the round function. Because what happens is a lot of the times it rounds incorrectly. So let me go ahead and, like, for example, all of these numbers are correct, but the system is rounding. That number should not be an 8. It should be a 7. Let me go ahead and redo the formula with the round feature. Okay, let me go back and let me delete all of this just so we can show you how to do the formula without having any issues with rounding. Okay, so we're going to do equal sign. We're going to do round. We're going to open parentheses. And you see this little box up here. It says FX insert function. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to equals round. Let me see. Equals round. And we're going to multiply that number times that number. Okay, I'm anchoring the S7. That does not change. Okay, and then I click the FX and I'm telling the system round it to 2 digits. Okay, and it will automatically round my formula. Okay, and if we scroll it down, okay, it's because it's picking up this rounded figure from over here because I did the sum. Okay, so that 43,914.18. Okay, so this cell should be the sum of everything in here, not the calculation. This should be the sum of this. Right, there we go. Okay, so what did I do here? Okay, let's go back and recap. Okay, I went ahead and I entered a function. That way we can round all of our calculations to 2 decimal places. Okay, and this is a little bit of Excel. That way we can practice Excel. And you can do all of these calculations in your calculator if you want. Remember, all we're doing for the OASDI tax rate is we're getting our OASDI taxable wages. Let's do the first one, the 3086.67 times the 6.2%. Okay, all we're doing is we're multiplying the OASDI taxable wages from the OASDI tax rate of 6.2%. Okay, now I know that there's going to be some rounding problems like we saw. We had to go and figure out, okay, let's look at that third digit. Is it a greater than 5 or not greater than 5? Do we round up? Do we not round? So we need to make sure that we are on top of that rounding. If you're using Excel, you can enter a formula and it does the rounding for you. So the formula is up here. It's equals round. You're going to select the cell. In this case, I'm doing a calculation, which was your 3,086.67 times the rate of 6.20%. On the cell that has your rate, make sure that you anchor it, and you anchor it by entering a dollar sign in front of the letter and a dollar sign in front of the number. S7 is the cell that we are using for the rate. And then I'm telling the system, comma, round to 2 decimal places. Okay, and that gives me that number. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for my HI tax just so I can prevent any kind of issues with my rounding. I'm going to do equals and I'm going to do round. Okay, open parentheses. I'm going to select my HI taxable wages times my rate. On my rate, I'm going to go and I'm going to go to the front of the letter U, or the letter that starts your rate cell. I'm going to enter F4, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a comma, And I'm going to tell the system round to 2 decimal places, close parentheses, and it gives me a number. Okay. Once I've got my formula, and you can look at the formula up here on the formula bar, round T9 times $U, $7, comma, 2 decimal places, close parentheses. Once you do that, you just get the corner and you bring it down. Okay. And then that will give you 741.16. Okay. So your totals are your OASDI taxable wages, 43,914.18. Your OASDI tax, 27,22.67. Your HI taxable wages, 51,114.18. And your HI tax, 741.16. Okay. So now these are your taxes for the employees. Okay. For each employee. The problem is asking you to also calculate the employer's OASDI tax and the employer's HI. Okay. Now, remember, the reason I have this one highlighted is because that is the only employee that went over the cap. They made 150. The cap is 142,800. So, even though the employee made 12,500, for purposes of the OASDI tax, they're only going to pay taxes on $5,300, and this is how we made that calculation. Okay. Now, for my employer's OASDI tax, you're going to get the OASDI taxable wages. Okay, you're going to get that taxable wages. Let me get my calculator, which is 43,914.18, and you're going to multiply by 6.2%. And that gives you 2722.679. Because that third digit is a 9, I'm going to round up to the 7 to an 8. So it will be 2722.68. And how did I get that? Let me go ahead and let me put the formula here. It will be the 43,914.18 times 6.2%. For my employer's HI tax, the same thing. We're going to get, but in this case, we're going to get the HI taxable wages, which is 51,114.18. 51,114.18 times my rate of 1.45%. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, so we've got 51,114.18 times 1.45%. That gives me 741.155. Okay, that third digit is a 5, so that means that I need to round up that second digit from a 5 to a 6. So it'll be 741.16. Okay. So if you see, for the OASDI tax for the employees, okay, it's 2722.67. For the employer, it's 2722.68. So it's off by a penny, okay, which is perfectly normal. Okay, we're gonna have those rounding. Make sure that you get them correctly. You just don't copy the information from up here. You actually calculate it. For the HI, both numbers are the same for the employees than for the employer, 741.16. Okay, so this is basically how you do this. It's just a matter of calculating your OASDI taxable wages and your HI taxable wages, and you can easily just figure that out by first identifying which of your employees go over the cap. So I figured out the ones that I did not highlight, none of those are going to go over the cap. So it doesn't really matter how much they make. I know they're not going to go over that cap of 142,800. I highlighted Sam because Sam is the only employee that went over the cap. Okay, so for that employee, I know I need to figure out how much of his earnings, in this case, how much of the 12,500 are subject to OASDI tax. And we calculated that $5,300 were taxable this month and $7,200 were not taxable. Okay, so once you get the taxable portion, you just multiply it by the rate and you will get your OASDI and your HI tax. Okay, So fairly straightforward. The only issues I foresee students having is with the rounding. Either use the round feature like I did on my formula here. Use the round feature. Or if you're doing the work manually, just make sure that you do look at that third digit. If it's a 5 or greater, you need to round that second digit up by 1. Okay? So that is basically it for this particular lecture. Make sure that you practice, that you be very careful with your numbers, you be very careful with your rounding. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, have a wonderful day.